Hi, and welcome to The Sound of Self, the podcast that's all about empowering women in their 30s to make mindful shifts, find their purpose, and step into their power.
This podcast is not just about discussions, it's a movement. We're here to break through the barriers that hold women back from freely expressing themselves. The world needs your unique voice, and we're here to help you find it.
So thank you for joining Jess and Erin on The Sound of Self. Let's unlock the power within and create a life that resonates with the true essence of you. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Sound of Self podcast. For today's episode, we are extending a little bit more on a topic that we've talked about previously, set and setting. In the context of setting, we were talking about our environment and how that included our social environment, the relationships around us. Yeah, so whether you're dating, and in dating, you really do have to pay attention to what your intuition is telling you, because again, you know, in the previous episode we talked about the programming that we've had as women and how we've been conditioned as women to be polite, to take responsibility for how the other person feels, and particularly how men feel. That sometimes when we're dating we can feel obligated or like we owe certain things.
And I've been in so many situations in the past, my dating history, where I've tried to talk myself into liking someone because it seemed logical at the time, but something in my body was kind of saying, maybe not, and then I've ignored that, and then it's gone on for too long, and then, it's turned out to be a negative relationship, or I've been people pleasing for the other person and their needs rather than my needs and what I really wanted in the first place, and feeling pushed into a certain decision, So now I'm much more in tune with my body when I'm going through the process of connecting with someone and meeting someone the first time. I'm just really trusting that, like, as soon as I am talking to someone, I'll know with like the first couple of hours if my body is feeling open or closed to this person. And as I was saying to you, Jess, like just quickly before we started recording, is that I know that I am happy to continue seeing this person because I'll be excited and feel that lightness to it, and that question of, I feel curious about this person. Like, I wonder what that would look like if I went on another date with them. And whereas if it was the opposite, on this person who I didn't feel connected with, I was thinking, how much longer do I have to be here? Whether it's polite to leave, or, I'm feeling this person's quite negative and I don't know if they're aligned with me, but should I give them another date? And then I'm trying to talk myself into going on another date with them when it's probably not aligned.
It really highlights just how much we can kind of abandon ourselves in different interactions and different relationships, and that is more likely the more disconnected we are from our own bodies, from if we are so focused on our expectations of how we should be or how a relationship should be. So many different things, like when we're up in our head and we're focused on those thoughts and ideals, we're not in our bodies. But when we're in our bodies and really mindful, we can make such better decisions. And you start to find as well, the more you start to listen to yourself and say yes to the things that you do feel lighter or feel just better. I don't know how to describe it. And no to those other things, that more beneficial opportunities kind of come into your life as well.
Things just feel in flow. They feel a lot easier, and less energy is needed to push, forward with these connections and relationships when we are aligned and our souls and our hearts are aligned. And this is something that we have as our topic today, is relationships and understanding boundaries and the importance of that with our own needs and our bodies and how we're feeling in our relationships. So we're going to talk about a few ways that you can do that to be assertive in your boundaries and knowing what your values are when it comes to relationships, moving forward through some of those tricky times, like the end of the year where we have a lot of family commitments and, perhaps some people are ramping up for Christmas, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so when we're talking about relationships, it's all sorts. It's friendships as well as colleagues, as well as immediate family members and intimate partners or casual lovers. We're talking about it all. It's really kind of across the board, and the key to enhancing those relationships really does start with that connection to self, as I've talked about, which, like, boundaries are the thing that helps us stay aligned with ourselves and honouring that. And it also helps other people grow too, because some people may not be used to you setting boundaries with them, and that's detrimental to their own relationships as well.
And I feel this can be quite hard for people who have very established relationships. Say if you were setting a new boundary with a parent or a sibling in something that's not been serving you before. And, I just want to note that if anyone is experiencing domestic violence or emotional abuse, please, there are amazing services there to reach out to, because we know that not all of this is easy, and some of it's very, it's very...
Like 1-800-RESPECT, whether you're a man, woman, anything, men's line if you're a man experiencing domestic violence, or even Q Life, you can speak to people if you're in same-sex relationships as well. Thought I'd jump in.
So we will pop some of those links down below if you are needing those services. Please don't hesitate to reach out. They are amazing. So in our topic today with our boundaries, it's being aware of how the relationship is serving you. Maybe you have a different persona you're putting on depending on the relationship. So if it's a work relationship, there are certain lines that can't be crossed, right? Like maybe a personal line may be crossed with a work colleague, and we need to be aware of the boundaries and the policies and procedures in place with our work. But with our family, it's not like there's a rule book, right? It's not like we make policies and procedures for our intimate partners. So this is where we have to create our own rules and our own boundaries that feel safe for us and they feel helpful for us. Jess?
Yeah, so something that I do when I'm working with clients one-on-one, sometimes I've done it in groups as well, and I've gotten individuals to create their own Bill of Rights when it comes to relationships. What that helps people do is identify what their own basic human rights are in the relationship, which can help when we're setting boundaries. A lot of people can feel guilty about setting those boundaries, or that they don't deserve them. But when we come back to, hey, I'm a human being and I have an inherent right to respect, to dignity, to privacy, to make decisions for myself that impact my own life, that's really empowering for individuals to kind of put that in writing. The other side of things is that it can help put things in a perspective about what the other person's rights are too, because they have those same rights to respect, to dignity, to privacy. So, going through the other person's phone because you're suspicious that they're cheating or something like that, that would be a breach of that privacy. So it's keeping these in consideration, and it can be a really powerful tool for couples to do together as well. It can be powerful for families that are kind of living together to have these ground rules at the outset, that, you know, in my house, this is what I will and won't accept, and everyone kind of agrees on that. And anytime there's a breach, it's like, hey, remember we agreed on blah, blah, blah.
And also very handy for housemates.
Housemates, 100%, 100%. Yeah, yep. Yeah, I remember having some crazy housemates. I shared for about 8 years, I think, and just, lots of breaches of privacy and overstepping boundaries. And when you kind of just popped into my head, and as to how I knew that wasn't a good environment for me, was, you know, when I came home, I felt embarrassed a lot, or guilty a lot, or ashamed a lot. You know, I was put down, things like that. I felt controlled. And yeah, I think if you're noticing that in any kind of relationship, that in itself is a sign that something needs to give.
When you're feeling disconnected from yourself, that is a sign that things need to be reassessed, reviewed. And sometimes it's hard with relationships when you're so used to certain patterns, you don't even see yourself doing them. Like it's a subconscious pattern that may be playing out and you're not aware of it. It's really good to have these little checks in place, or these, you know, scheduled times where you're going to sit down and have these discussions so that you can keep nurturing that relationship like a plant. As we say, you know, you've got to keep watering it, keep nurturing it so it can continue to grow, because if we don't, that can go unchecked and create some serious damage.
In a lot of research shows the number one key to longevity in a relationship actually is communication. And that communication needs to be open and two-way, and it needs to be at a time. It needs to be at a time that suits everyone involved, because if you're trying to have a meaningful conversation when people are heightened, their prefrontal cortex, their higher order decision making, that's offline. You're operating from an emotional brain, and it's often very regressive, very childlike. You might notice things like your name calling or things like that, putting the other person down. You're not operating from your wise mind, and so that's why we have to be really good with picking the right timing for these types of conversations.
And that's a good boundary.
Yeah, when you're setting those boundaries, exactly. So setting them ahead of time.
Responding instead of reacting is something I have learnt this year. It's really helped me with my communication.
So the timing is important. Being clear on the actual behaviour or things that you don't want, as well as what you do want, because it can be really confusing for somebody if you are constantly saying, oh, I hate when you do blah, 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 but you don't give an alternative of what you expect.
A lot of people, this is what I'm finding through the lovely land of dating apps, don't actually know what they want. And I find that really interesting when I start having a conversation with someone. They're just going through the motions. But when I actually ask those real questions like, hey, what are you looking for? If they don't have a really strong answer, it tells me a lot about that person. Like they haven't really worked on that part of themselves. And if they're looking for a relationship or a long-term relationship, as they say in their profile, it doesn't match up. So I think a lot of what Jess is saying is like put your actions with your words, but then also remember that it is a two-way street. You do have to give. You do have to be aware of what you want and actually ask for what you want, but then respect the needs of the other person and find out if that is aligning for you. And I think that is really important to mention with, you know, family. As we grow and we evolve, our needs change, right? So it may be something that worked for you like 5 years ago, but now it doesn't. So that's why, again, back to this boundary of creating that time to reflect and respect and connect with each other. I can make a rap for that. Reflect, connect, respect. Yeah, reflect, connect, respect. Yeah, Jess is boogieing right now, just so you know.
The other thing that's really valuable in terms of helping us identify when we need to do that inner work is recognizing that all of our relationships are mirrors for us. They are shining something back to us that could indicate an area that we still need to work on. A lot of our assumptions and even our expectations about our own roles and others' roles in relationships will come from our childhood, will come from the roles we played or what we witnessed, and we have to kind of keep that in check as well. Like, is this my old stuff coming up, or is this actually about the other person being, inconsiderate or whatever it is?
Yeah, and I think also to mention, like, even though we do resolve a lot of our old stuff or our childhood trauma, there's always a little bit. I feel like there's always more to unravel and unpack there, no matter how well you know yourself. There's always more to learn, right?
Yeah, it's a lifelong journey, and that's what makes it so interesting. And if we can adopt that curiosity about ourselves instead of this rigidity that every time we mess up, it's like, oh, I'm a bad person or whatever, or blame somebody else so we don't have that feeling of being a bad person. We don't, all that kind of sheds away. Instead, we're curious and like, oh, I'm learning this other thing about myself, and that's really cool. It's bringing me closer to who I am.
Yeah. So to finish up our little chat on relationships today, it's been a bit of a wild ride on our relationship. It's really about boundaries, right? It's about creating the space, creating the boundary, and being aware, creating an awareness of where you're sitting in all of that. Thank you for tuning in to The Sound of Self. We hope today's episode inspired you with new insights and reflections.
If you enjoyed our conversation or found it helpful, consider sharing it with a friend or leaving us a review. Help us reach more people like you on their self-discovery journey.